Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Advocacy at Work. I am your host, Tim McDonald, and today I am joined by Vanessa. How are you doing, Vanessa?
Good morning, Tim. I'm doing so well, and I'm so grateful to be here.
I am so glad you're here. As we were just talking about, we've been planning this, I think, since the beginning of the year to have you on, and it finally ended up happening.
I think it was actually further than that. It was before our Miami conference
Oh, it
in
was. Yeah.
2025. Yeah, before we went to Miami. It was that's how long it's been.
But Vanessa, obviously, and I are in the same circles because we're both colorectal cancer survivors. And I just can't wait to dive into this conversation. So, Vanessa, why don't you just tell us a little bit about, your story as far as, what brought you into this advocacy world, going back to when, what was going on in your life when you heard those words, you have cancer.
Well, let's just say it was back in the dark ages, right? The dark ages of colorectal cancer, because I was diagnosed 24 years ago with stage 4 colon cancer. And back then, God, I was only 28 and I really was a baby. Like, you think you're an adult, but you're not. You're a baby, especially with colorectal cancer, because 24 years ago, it was still an older man's disease. And I was getting treated. I was lucky to get treated at MSK. And I was surrounded, literally surrounded by people who, first of all, were very set in their lives. They were wealthy. They were closer to retirement age. And, they had kids my age there with them getting treatment. And I'm trying to relate to everybody, and nobody could understand what I was going through. I had just graduated college and I was a young mom, and my life was just starting. Like, I was going to study my LSATs. I was going to be a lawyer, which is funny, right? Because cancer throws you this big wrench into your plans, and everything kind of gets disarrayed and discombobulated. But then it comes back together somehow through your journey. You have, or at least I did, I had this unbelievably clear vision, because everything that could go wrong when I was diagnosed with cancer did. So every kind of setback that you get in your treatment, I got it. Every side effect, everything that never happens. I was the 1 in a million girl at MSK, and they treated me so amazingly that I had a good outlook and I felt empowered because I was so supported. And I realized that not everybody has that. Like, the first hospital I went to was horrific to me, and, where I was actually diagnosed. And I just thought, I don't want people to have to go through what I go through. There were no support groups. ACS had for breast and prostate, but there were older people. Like, I think the person closest in age to me was probably about 45, and her and I didn't even gel, because back then, and I'm very glad that it's not the same now, it really isn't. Back then, different cancers stayed within themselves, and they felt like, no, you're not a part of us. You're not about this cancer. So I had no one to go to. I had no one to find support, to advocate. And there's so many things in your journey when you're sick that you don't know how to handle, that you learn from your peers, or you learn by going to all of these colorectal cancer groups that have conferences. And even like with Fight CRC, they're so survivor friendly now. Back then they were C3 and they weren't. They were straight advocacy, which is amazing. It's needed. But at the time I needed support. So I decided to be that support for everybody. And till my dying day, I will not only be fighting for young adult cancer, right? Because we're not heard and we're often overlooked. But I also don't want anyone to ever feel alone. Ever. That is my biggest thing.
I think that was a big thing in my LinkedIn profile, that my mission in life was not to have anybody feel alone, because I'm a community manager and community builder online for a living. So that was like, for years, I've had something very similar to what you just said on there. But before we get too far, Vanessa, can you explain to me how you would define advocacy?
I think it's changed a lot, right? Over these past decades. I first thought that advocacy was being loud and strong and letting them know, like, no, you must hear me. You must hear me. This is going to be an epidemic with young people. I saw it coming because when you go to these conferences, when you go to any action events that are like in your neighborhood where your politicians are around, especially their health fairs, you really pay attention. I noticed that cancer was hitting younger and younger people, especially colorectal cancer. Like it was slowly becoming a not older man's disease, right? And as we progressed, then it started becoming larger and larger and larger. And now it's the number one cancer killer, right? For people under 50, which is devastating to me. I wish that wasn't the case. So I think when I started, advocacy was it was like anger. It's like all this anger and rage that I had to bring it forth. And then you realize that that doesn't get you anywhere. It just drains you, it tires you out. And what gets everything going is that slow wheel. And you think that you're not making a progress, but here we are 24 years later, and the screening age is lowered to 45. And what I'm hoping is that maybe another 10 years, another 5 to 10 years, we can get it lowered to 40. I believe that's possible. Didn't we get all the insurances to come along? Not only public insurance, but private insurance too. I mean, this is huge. And that's the difference in advocacy now, is that it's that slow wheel that just keeps going, and you keep going, and you have other people gathered around you with the same purpose and unite in one voice. That is what moves everything, including your story, which is the biggest part of it, is sharing your story over and over again. You could sit at home, you could be sick, you could be not feeling well, you could lay down in your hospital bed and you take your phone, and that's it. You're a powerful advocate from your own home by sharing your story. So I think that's the big difference between when I first started.
Wow. Yeah, no, and I know you've been in it for quite a few years. So, and you and I have had one-on-one conversations at some of these events that have really helped me. So I just want to thank you for all your wisdom and knowledge and your experience. But if you would, I know you mentioned like you started by trying to find, even though there wasn't a lot of resources out there for you at the time that you could associate with, you started getting active in these groups just for looking for your own support. Take us, like, how did that kind of evolve for you and actually move from you looking for support to actually providing support and advocacy?
Oh, wow. This is a big one. So like I said, I had found through ACS, I was finishing up my treatment, right? And I finally found the then Colon Cancer Alliance, right? It's now Colorectal Cancer Alliance, but back then it was Colon Cancer Alliance. And they were the tiny little org out of Ocala, Florida. And I think they had a staff of like 10, maybe. So there was this one person called Jeannie Hansen Moore. I don't know if you know of her. She is a prolific patient navigator. And she was one of the first. The Colon Cancer Alliance was one of the first organizations that offered support, not only for patients, but also caregivers. And I thought that was huge. I thought that was so needed. And I was very proud of them, and everything in their philosophy and everything they did matched up with what I was feeling and what I wanted. And at the same time, I met Matthew Zachary, right? I was at a walk in New York City by the water. It was gorgeous, right? And it was for Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And I'm walking and I'm with my ex-husband and my mom, right? And this young guy comes up to me and he tells me, "Oh, would you like to fill this out? It's about young cancer patients." And I flipped. I was still only 31 at the time, 31 or 32. And I'm flipping out like, "Oh my God, young people, what? Yes." And I'm like, "I can tell you really things." And my ex-husband was like, "You have to calm down." And I was like, "I can't." I had been waiting for this. Like, hello, I've been talking about young onset cancer and everyone's telling me it's not a problem. You have no idea what you're talking about. That's what I was told. Every conference, every committee, every advisory council that I was joining was telling me that I had no idea what I was talking about. And I'm like, "No, I do. And our needs are so different from other patients." And they kind of dismissed me. And just to kind of go off on the side a little bit, of course, here we are 20. So if I'm a 24-year survivor, that's 22 years that I'm an advocate. And 22 years later, when big decisions are made, I'm considered and I'm spoken to. Where I was dismissed, I earned that. I earned that seat. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, we'll go back to that. So this young guy is there on the water and he's telling me all these, and so I did the whole survey. And then he said, listen, you're so excited and passionate. Why don't you come to our first meetup? And I said, absolutely. So I went down into the city and I walk in, and it's this gorgeous bar down in the city. It was all for stupid cancer, right? The Never Too Young. They used to push the N2Y back then more than the stupid cancer logo, right? And I walk in and everybody looked like me. Everybody looked like me. And it was just, and we sat in the corner for a while. I was there with my ex-husband and I realized I need to meet people. I'm not a wallflower. I'm a doer. I want to do, I want to get involved. I'm sorry, but I'm like leaving you here in the corner. I got to go. And of course, the first person I met, the first person I walked up to was Matthew Zachary, who's the founder of Stupid Cancer and former CEO. And we just bonded. So I was a part of that original group. I was a part of that formed it, that we were out there. I mean, every time there was something to advocate for young cancer, for young adult cancer, I was there at the forefront. And I learned by really watching, and I learned by watching my local politicians and seeing how they reacted to people who were so angry because they wanted change. And I realized that, again, and I'm coming back to it because this is so important for people who advocate today to know, anger does not get you anywhere. Anger gets doors closed for you. And it's the camaraderie you build. It's the relationship you build, right? And it's consistency, being consistent. So if you say you're going to do something, you do it. And I think that's how I got into the advocacy. And also with Stupid Cancer, and then with Colon Cancer Alliance, that became my home. Colon Cancer Alliance, I became family, like with the staff members, with other volunteers. And then there was a woman called Jennifer Butler, who was then Jen Beckman, and her stepfather passed from colon cancer. And she became this huge advocate. And she ran the New York City chapter of Colorectal Cancer Alliance. And I was there with her, and she inspired me because she was like me. I am a doer. Like, I'm not going to just talk. If Tim, if you and I were doing something, right? And we said, oh, we should do X, Y, and Z. While we're speaking, I'm on the phone. I'm looking at you and looking at my phone. And I'll say, before you finish your conversation, oh, Tim, okay, so this place has that. We could utilize this, do this. Did you find on your end? And when I find people who are that way, like me, oh my, it's like I have goosebumps. Like, it's just because I know together, the whole point is together we can help people who don't know how to help themselves, because not everybody does. And I hate when people assume that, oh, well, if you're fighting cancer, or if you've survived cancer, or if you lost somebody, then you know, and you already know that you have to. No, people don't. Not everyone is outgoing. Not everyone is assertive. Not everyone knows how to take the chaos of cancer and the chaos that cancer brings into your life, because it affects your immediate family, not just you, and your best friends it affects too. Not everyone knows how to take all that chaos and build something from it. And I think that's why it's so important, and why I was so lucky that I landed where I landed. I was lucky that the Colorectal Cancer Alliance allowed me to be a leader. It allowed me to go forward with whatever ideas I had. And this is something about all the orgs, right? And that I wish more advocates would understand. Every single organization brings something different to the table. There's overlapping, of course there is, but everyone brings something different to the table. And you have to sit there and say, where do I fit in? Where do I feel comfortable? And what feels like home to me? And then really give of yourself, because you're going to learn, and you're going to walk away from volunteering for these orgs with so much experience, lived experience. And most importantly, learning how to take your story and learning how to take your life experience and build something from it so that other people who get diagnosed after you or your loved one, they have a pathway to follow that'll make it easier for them to deal with their cancer journey. And I think that's at the heart of it, right?
Absolutely. And I'm just thinking as you're talking here, Vanessa, and I'm like, I was just thinking, it's like some people might not find any of these organizations or ones that they really align with, but you can still be a resource for patients and direct people to these organizations. And that is just as powerful as being active in these organizations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I would say to that is if they're not a joiner, right? If they don't gel with an org, what they can do is put their story out there in social media. You put little tidbits. So if you find an article, right, relating to somebody just being diagnosed with colorectal cancer, you retweet or repost that article along with a snippet of your story that relates to that article. And then do hashtags. People, I don't think people understand how powerful hashtags are and how much that goes out there to the universe. I mean, that's our problem, is that there's a desperate need to get the messages that we all have out to the general public, not just amongst ourselves or the medical community that we've built relationships with, which are vital, but we need to get out more to the general public and more to the general practitioners who don't go to ASCO, who don't go to AACR, who don't go to like ACG or anything else like that. All these doctors who are not able to, right? Whether they're in city hospitals or especially the ones out in the rural. That's why we have to share our stories. And people who don't gel with organizations, you have so much power to do that just from your own home.
Yeah.
We all have it, right? We all have that power to do that. It's amazing.
No, I think, I write about it in the book. I talk about it all the time. It's like, all you need to start with is sharing your story. That's all it really takes. So let's take a break a little bit from the advocacy talk and get to know Vanessa a little bit better. So I can just have 4 kind of fun questions. They get a little bit deeper as we go. But the first one's pretty low lift. So what is your favorite color?
Blue. And I have to tell you, I know it's the colorectal cancer color. I know it is. But 24 years ago, the ribbon was brown. I just want you to know. And it came from the UK. The ribbon was brown. And I remember when I looked it up, I was like, oh my God, no. I was like, no, that's not okay. That's not okay. And we would always say things and be like, no, that's not okay. We don't like it. And although I love the color blue because I'm September, which is a Virgo, and this is our birthstone. And my parents have always gotten me blue jewelry. So it's like a thing for me, right? So when I think it was right when I finished my treatment, I was 32, and I finished not because they didn't find cancer, but because they found a huge clot in my right atrium of my heart that was directly on the chemo port, right? I told you, like I said, everything that happened to me, right? So anyway, I had just had open heart surgery, and Jennifer from the New York City chapter, right, tells me, oh, Vanessa, we're having this really big thing with the entertainment industry with EIF, right? And so they were this was Katie Couric's thing. And she was this was way before the Jane Monahan. No, actually, it was right after the Jane Monahan Center, because that's where we would have our meetings. So she did this. And of course, she invited us, and we go. And it is like all the stars, like the Sopranos were there. Like everybody was there except for James Gandolfini. And then the guys that did the hair, I can't even remember their names. There's just so many stars were there. And it was like in New York, we don't get as starstruck as people do everywhere else. But at that moment, I was, because they were all there for cancer, most especially colon cancer. So it was my first big event for colon cancer. And it was amazing. It was exciting. I was super swollen because I'm maybe a month out of surgery. I was very weak. But that was probably one of the most exciting things that I had done as an advocate. And I was only an advocate for about a year or two at that time. So I was fresh and shy. Can you imagine me shy? I was
No.
shy. And I was so scared to get Katie's picture. I have to pull that up for you because I'm so huge. Like first of all, pumped full of steroids too, but I really gained so much weight with cancer. And I was towering. Like, this is me, and then this is Katie Couric. Like, it is the funniest picture. Like, I have to bring it up. But anyway, so that was my first big thing with advocacy, and that was the first thing that I realized, oh, we could advocate for something serious and have fun too. What? This is a perfect marriage. And I was like, that's it. I'm hooked.
So what is your favorite band or musician?
Oh my God, that's hard. All of them. I love a very wide variety of music. And the fact that I'm an American girl of Puerto Rican and Italian descent. I also listen to Italian and Spanish music. But I mostly listen to rock. I do. I'm a rock girl. I'm an 80s girl. What are you gonna do? I was like a 13 in the 80s, I think it was. Yeah. So probably hair bands I'll still listen to. Oops.
And what is one place that you've always wanted to visit but haven't yet?
Spain. So I'm giving myself 3 years because I have an upcoming trip that's going to do a bucket list that I don't want to talk about yet. And I did Italy last summer. I was there for a little over 2 weeks, and I went all over Italy, all over from Rome down to Sicily, and it was amazing. And I went with natives, so I got to really see Italy. So we went to tourist spots, but then we went to native spots and food from real Italians. Like it was in Nocera, which is in like the Calabria region, and figs and all this stuff and cheeses and meats. Well, I don't eat meat, but like the smell of it was different. Everything right there. And you eat so much, you never get sick or full. And as someone who, I've had stage 4 colon cancer, I've had 15 surgeries related to that diagnosis. And my colon has been cut open many times, and I still have my colon, right? So I have to be so careful with what I eat. And when I was in Italy, I didn't. I notice after like maybe the 4th day that I don't get sick and I'm not nauseous and I'm not severely bloated. And not to get serious, and I'm sorry about that, but I don't know. I think if you're a survivor or if you're in treatment and you get a break, I want you to travel outside of the United States and just see how much better food is outside. I'm sorry, I love America, but our food is not good for us. It just isn't.
I was going to tell you just a little side note. My wife and I went to Europe last year, and a lot of the side effects that I have here at home, I wasn't experiencing over there.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was amazing. It really was. So my last question on this series is, what is one thing that most people do not know about you?
One thing I don't know, but I don't know because I'm so open. I don't know if there's anything. I'm very open and loving with people, right? And even if I don't necessarily like someone, when someone needs help, I am always the first person to try to be there to help somebody. And I'll suffer alone. I never, ever, ever, I'll post things after it's happened, and I'll say stuff that's happened after it's happened because I don't like to ask for help. That's a really, really something I'm working on. And this year at Cologuard, I had a Crohn's attack and I got really sick, and I was going to like hide away in my room. And then I was like, no, I'm not doing it. And I let my friends know that were there, like my close friends, right? And I can't tell you how they came through for me. I can't even explain how they surrounded me and protected me and made sure I was okay. And that was the first time I ever asked for help. And it was beautiful to know that I got the help that I always give. So I guess that's what people don't know about me, is how hard it is to ask for help.
That is beautiful. And I was just thinking of the same thing that you just put into words much better than I would have about how the helper actually learned how to ask for help herself.
Yes. I like that. The helper finally asked for help. Yeah. It took like 21 years to be like, I'm not okay. I'm not okay right now. Yeah.
So the final question I have for you is, if money, time, and institutional gatekeeping were off the table, what would you build or change first?
So first of all, I would have some kind of law put in. It seems like general practitioners are our biggest gatekeepers, and they're the ones that say, no, you're way too young. No, you're fine. And they're still not understanding the fact that if you have a colon, you are at risk for colon cancer. It doesn't matter your age or your family history. Those two key figures are so important, but it's not the end all be all. If you have a colon, you're at risk. And I would have it so that doctors understand you're not sending a patient for screening, you're sending them for diagnostic, which is totally different. And if a patient is literally 19 years old and they're bleeding from the rectum, don't assume that it's a hemorrhoid. Even a digital is not really going to feel anything if it's just a little beyond your finger. Please send younger people for diagnostic. And I would make something that's like a law, right? If money was no object, that's number one. Number two is every single cancer center and every single major hospital that deals with cancer, I want them to have what Dana-Farber has done and make a whole young cancer separate, like a separate clinic for young adults facing cancer than right now I'm 52 years old. Like, I fought very hard to be this age, right? To be AARP. And I'm proud of it. I love it. I'm in a different place in my life, but I will never forget the struggle I had as a young cancer patient. So I think every single cancer institution, clinic, hospital, doctors, everything, there should be a separate protocol and a separate program for young adults. I will always fight for that, even though now if I got diagnosed, I wouldn't fit into that. But now I wouldn't need it because I'm okay in my life and my life is adjusted and set. And you know what I mean? What I needed at 28, I am now. So that's that. And I think lastly, and I think this is most important, so many patients can't get procedures, can't get tests, can't get colonoscopies, can't go to their treatments because they have no one to take them or bring them home. And they have no way to get back and forth. They have no transportation. And if you're, let's say for a colonoscopy, you're going in for a colonoscopy, you can't really afford preventative care. And you're forced to because you're presenting with symptoms, right? So this is reactive care, which happens too often. But now you have to take off 2 days of work because you figure the prep day, and then the day of the test. You can't drive yourself there and you can't drive yourself home. So if you don't have a ride, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to go get your colonoscopy. And this, as a patient navigator, I can't tell you how many times this happens. I would want a program where patients had transportation, not just to get preventative tests or procedures, but also for treatment, to and from treatment. I think it's desperately needed all across America.
I love it. And I hope these things come true very soon. So Vanessa, how can people learn more, get in touch with you about your work and what you do?
So I'm online and I'm everywhere and I'm open to anyone. And if you Google my name, Vanessa Gigliotti, everything comes up, like my social media handles, my stories that have been put out there. And I hope it inspires you. And if you do need help, whether it's a patient navigator, help you navigate the whole medical system, I'm there. If you need somebody to talk to let go of whatever it is you're dealing with, I'm there. Or I can send you places where there's big group things and there's online group things, or there's helplines to call. And I also now, I'm with the GI Cancers Alliance, and you can also reach out to gicanceralliance.org. We have so many member organizations of many different kind of cancers. That's
absolutely wonderful. And I forgot to congratulate you because you just recently started with the GI Cancers Alliance. So
Thank
I
you.
am so happy for you and for them for having you. But I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of Advocacy at Work. And if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast and blog. It's just all on Substack. So it's one email that you need to put in. And don't forget to search, because I know Vanessa mentioned Matthew Zachary and his episode should be up. So you can look at that one too if you're interested in his story. But definitely sign up. And we thank you again. And we will see you next week on Advocacy at Work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tim.